genetic flaws, aberrations, playing God. Space Marines are the combination of human genetics and a mad god's ingenuity, usually taking a child and stuffing him full of different organs. Just like any procedure, something could go wrong, especially if it's something this complex. So we've decided to go over our favorite gene seed defects in this video. From the obvious ones like the Red Thirst, to some of the more obscure ones like the Blood Raven's Insomnia.
Starting off, we are looking at the Salamander successors, the Black Dragons. As many chapters on this list, they are of course a part of the 21st Curse Founding. The Curse Founding affected the Black Dragons more than other chapters, with each Space Marine having varied degrees of bone protrusions, causing things like bone claws and horns. With the bone claws, they then dip them in adamantium to further their capabilities. They of course make full use of assault squads with jump packs. Due to their tainted appearance, they have been censored by the Inquisition, and there's been talks of eradicating them. But so far, they've been proven loyal subjects of the God Emperor, and as their bonus, they are relevant and often in many books. As the most charismatic Primarch, we have the Blood Drinkers. As successors of the Blood Angels, they have a gene defect in their omophage, 4 nerve bundles located in their spinal cord connecting to their stomach. Typically, this organ lets Space Marines eat their enemies and gain their knowledge. But with this mutation and bit of encouragement from visions these successors had from either their Primarch themselves or a demon tricking them, they have decided to give into their natural urges of course, drinking massive amounts of blood for their own personal enjoyment and an attempt to hold off a Black Rage. So, if you ever see this chapter of Space Marines or one similar to them, they may be swooping down to save your planet from Xenos or swooping down for a quick drink, only leaving when their hunger is satisfied.
Moving on to some of the more minor ones, we have the Death Specters and the Salamanders yet again. While all Space Marines have the ability to change their melanin skin color depending on the environment to resist the sun rays, the Death Specters and Salamanders both have a mutation in this gene. The Salamanders because they live on a hellscape lava-filled planet, and the Death Specters, well, we're not sure why they have the mutation, but it makes them vulnerable to the sun. But if a guardsman can handle it, so can they. Sadly, with the Death Specters, they don't have anything positive to balance off their negative. The Salamanders, however, do. By using their power of melanin, they can easily steal other people's wives. On top of that, being born on Nocturne, they seem to have infrared vision and can heal faster than the average Space Marine.
Slip sliding and exploding on the battle barge, we have the Lamenters. We don't know what's wrong with them, if it's a gene seed problem or not, but as far as we know, there ain't no warp nonsense to making them this unlucky. They have somehow managing his possible feat of staying alive, but also making every single wrong choice possible. If they attack the enemy head on, wrong choice. If they try to flank the enemy, wrong choice. They are already prepared for that. The only thing that saved them is that they're decently above average in combat even for your average Space Marine. So even though they keep ending up in terrible positions, they are able to fight their way out of them. But more onto their unluckiness. They have somehow survived a penitent crusade, multiple wars, one of their ships exploded and a large amount of their chapter dying, and even gone toe-to-toe with the Minotaurs. Though they didn't lose in that fight, it seemed like genetically they are just bound to lose. For a while, they did have something that pushed them above every other chapter in their legion, being that they did not have the Black Rage. But even then, that showed up, cursing them even more.
Going back to the Blood Angels, not just their successors, but also their successors and the main chapter, it's technically not a gene defect, but affects all of them just like one. We have the Black Rage. As far as we know, it's a psychically applied curse put on anyone that shares the same genes as Sanguinius. In moments of great stress, war, and other times that would test you, or just randomly, you might get a vision. A vision of the aftermath of Sanguinius getting his ass whooped by Horus. His dead body strung up like a butterfly in a museum, held up like a trophy in a sea of chaotic bodies. And after seeing this vision, most Blood Angels never recover from this, getting sent into a usually permanent state of psychosis, seeing everyone, friend or foe, as the War Master Horus himself, and they will attack with reckless abandonment, not stopping until they die of their wounds, or kill everything around them. Next up, we have one of the most stubborn legions, the Imperial Fists. Sadly, just like their father, their stubbornness and hot temper can lead to their own ruin, which also comes with their gene seed. Somehow, despite not being tainted by chaos, and having a large number of units consistently staying on Terra, they have multiple separate problems with their gene seed. Those basically being losing all ability to use their Belcher's gland, the thing that allows Space Marines to spit acid, and a completely useless Sussus membrane, which allows a Space Marine to enter suspended animation, meaning that because of that, they are technically easier to kill, because that very Sussus membrane can slow down your vitals and even help you survive mortal wounds. And it can also help you in low oxygen environments, meaning the Imperial Fists just don't have the survivability of a lot of other Space Marine legions.
Similarly to the Imperial Fists, we have the Raven Guard, who are missing their Belcher's gland, which means they also cannot spit acid. Lucky for the Raven Guard though, they do have their Sussus membrane, but sadly they're missing something equally as useful, which is their Machoroid. Because this is what allows Space Marines to survive extreme heat and cold, meaning they're going to need specialized armor for conditions normal Space Marines could handle. It also includes the fact that they will die much quicker in space, making them useless in space combat, which happens more often than you think. Lastly, they have this discount Black Rage, this being the Sable brand, which makes them throw themselves into fights with no regard for their personal safety, and can be reliably found, as instead of just randomly going on a killing spree, their eyes will go black before going to this rage, and unlike the Black Rage, it is not permanent.
Moving right along, we have the next gene defect, the one the Space Wolves were born with. They didn't get these mutations through a cursed founding. Most, if not all of them, were born out of a conversation. And the conversation went something like this. Alright, now that you've met your kids, is there anything you want to put in them? Put a wolf in them! Like, sexually? Eventually, but not right now, no. What do you mean by that? I just want to put wolf DNA in them. I was raised by wolves. I want them to be raised by wolves.
Delete. Oh no.
Since then, the Space Wolves were irreversibly cursed. There's a few upsides to this mutation, like sharper canines, better smells, and better fighting capabilities, making them stronger than your average Space Marines, but definitely not smarter. Because of their bloodlust, they're discount world eaters basically, and due to their genetic aberration they were given called the Canis Helix, which infects a good amount of Space Wolves with a curse called the Mark of the Wolven. Similar to the Red Thirst, they will have an unquenchable thirst for violence, having them contained and locked only to be thrown out onto battlefields. On top of that, some of them just turn into wolves and werewolves. It's basically just a minor genetic taint like the flesh change, but we accept it. I don't know why. Dornian Darkness is a malady on Rogel Dorn's lineage that I haven't heard anyone talk about, or is often mentioned in the lore as a whole. Unlike a lot of other similar cases like the Red Thirst and the Flesh Change, in the book Legion of the Damned by Rob Sanders, this was the first and seemingly last occurrence of Dornian Darkness. Seemingly the only Space Marine chapter to be affected by this is the Excoriators. Similar to the Blood Angel's Black Rage stemming from Sanguinius getting his ass kicked by Horus, the Dornian Darkness is similar because it's born from the sadness that Rogel Dorn was too slow to save the Emperor.
The other difference from the Black Rage is that instead of falling into a rage, they fall into a depression, having symptoms of wretched palsy, tremors in their limbs, and vacant stares. Additionally, other ways to tell if the darkness is affecting a brother is that the victim stops communicating and taking care of themselves. They can also fall into a state of incense. Some people have survived this and been described as a living nightmare. The only cure is by putting the infected into stasis and using ritual to hopefully gather enough strength to break them from the darkness, which of course some never truly break out of. And that's the last of the official ones. We have a few from the Cursed Founding and some that were cursed by their Primarch. Not the same as the Red Thirst or Dorn's Darkness. We're going to start this one off with the Word Bearers. They seem to develop a flaw similar to their Primarch, with the only thing they excel at being spewing religious fervor. Not being very proficient in fighting or tactics similar to their dad, they have to rely on their mediocre psychic abilities to even attempt to carry themselves through most fights. It's true they have some notable victories, but overall, especially with Logor, fighting other Primarchs, their victory ratio is abysmal. Now thinking about it, I don't think he has won against any Primarch, but that's a talk for another video. If you're wondering what their mutation is, it's the fact that they're supposed to be a military fighting force taking over the galaxy, and they're pussies, just like their dad.
Oh, and don't worry, I lied. We're going over one more legitimate one. The Flame Falcons, a chapter we know almost nothing about. They were a part of the Curse founding, and they were loyal to the Imperium until their demise. They had the ability to light themselves on fire and burn everything around them, except for themselves. Too bad they got absolutely molested after one of their big fights against the Orcs and Eldar, where after their victory, they started celebrating, and the Grey Knights decided to completely wipe the chapter from history, except for one that escaped, because the Grey Knights decided that their powers were demonic in nature, because we can't have shit in 40k. That sounds cool. They could just set themselves on fire, it doesn't kill them, and it just burns. I hope you enjoyed hearing about these walking abominations, these pathetic excuses for Space Marines with all their genetic aberrations and just terrible flaws. If you learned something, make sure to like and subscribe, and check out our other videos and shorts related to this one.